So now that you're in Israel, you've never been here before, right?
I was here once. I was at the Jerusalem Film Festival in, I think, 1991 or sometime around then.
How do you find it this time, considering the unique situation we're falling into the last few days?
Well, I don't know much about Middle East politics. I understand there's some problems, and there have always been problems, and will be for the foreseeable future, I would assume. But looking at the country, both Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, particularly Tel Aviv, has grown tremendously. These are big cities now. Tel Aviv is a big modern city.
And switching to the Israeli film industry, as a filmmaker who spent like most of his life dealing with genre films, can you give any tips to Israeli filmmakers or Israeli film industry that apparently doesn't know what a genre film is?
Well, as I understand, the Israeli film industry is doing quite well now. The films are doing better commercially. They're winning awards at international festivals. And from what I've been told, the Israeli film industry is, if not booming, at least enjoying very good times.
Yeah, but all with one specific sort of movies, no like horror, sci-fi, any of those. What kind of tips can you give our like filmmakers that can help us do more of this stuff?
Well, I'm interested in all types of films, but I think there should and could be horror films, science fiction, other genre films, particularly today because the special effects cost much less money today and they're better than they ever were before. So these are some of the basic instruments of making a science fiction or fantasy film.
Really, do you like new CGI effects as opposed to like real craftsmanship, people working with their hands doing effects?
I think it's a combination of both. For instance, we just did a picture called Dino Shark, which was a prehistoric shark that played on the Sci-Fi Channel, which is a science fiction channel in the United States, and it did very well. Now, what we did for the long shots of the Dino Shark, we used computer graphics. For the close shots, where the shark was biting somebody here, we had mechanical jaws. So we use a combination of both, which I think works best.
You're going to continue working on this platform of the Sci-Fi Channel?
Yes, we've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 films for the Sci-Fi Channel, and we have a commitment for 2 more.
All right, let's talk about the Poe films you made that are airing on MGM regularly. Can you tell me about how do you adapt the source material? Since the source material is mostly poems or short stories, how did you work on adapting them to full movies?
Well, the short stories were very short, sometimes no more than 2 or 3 pages long. What we did, and I give great credit here to Dick Matheson, the writer, who wrote most of them. Chuck Beaumont wrote Mask of the Red Death, and we had some other writers on some of them. But Dick and I took the attitude that, say, a picture like The Pit and the Pendulum, the whole story is the man under the pendulum. So we said, that will be the 3rd act. Let us create a 1st and 2nd act, which would be the story of how he got there, and try to keep it in the spirit of Poe.
All right. A couple of months ago, I saw one of your movies, The Intruder. Totally blew me away, especially how relevant it is kind of today. Do you still think, like, after the integration and everything, now the U.S. have a black president, is this movie still as relevant as it was?
I think a film works on 2 levels. It works on the immediate level of the time period in which it was made. And then years later, if it is still relevant, it can refer to universal situations. For instance, the prejudice against blacks is just about gone. There's still a little some with some people, but the fact that we have a black president indicates the majority of the people were perfectly willing to accept a black. But now we have a lot of Mexican immigrants, and there's a little bit of prejudice against the illegal Mexican immigrants, not the legal ones, but the ones across the border illegally. And I understand in Europe, they have a similar problem with Muslims coming up. So you can say The Intruder was specific to its time, of racial integration of blacks, but it also applies to discrimination against Muslims or against Mexicans or whatever.
Were you influenced for this movie by movies like Fury, Fritz Lang's Fury, and Sound of Fury? They know two movies that deal with lynch mob mentality. I really got that, and it's black and white. Also, I really got that sense from it. Did you take any of those from this
No,
movie?
I had not seen Fury.
Okay.
I saw Fury after I made the film, and I thought Fury was a very good picture.
Okay, why didn't you continue with this, you can say that exactly, but with those kind of films more, like again, kind of experimented with movies that totally like social message movies and strong movies like that?
The Intruder was the first film I ever made that lost money.
Oh.
Until then, I think it was the 17th, 18th, 19th film, and I'd had 17, 18, 19 winners in a row. I never even thought about losing money. And when it lost money, I thought I should step away from that kind of film and go back to the genre films.
Yeah, because one of your books, it's called How I Made 100 Million Movies and Never Lost a Dime, right?
Yeah, the title was not completely accurate. I've won most of the time, but I've lost a few times.
What do you think about this new generation of giant monster movies like Cloverfield or The Host, the Korean movie The Host, compared to your output of monster movies in the 50s and stuff like that?
Well, technically, the new pictures are far better. The special effects, particularly as I was talking about the computer graphics, enable the filmmaker to achieve effects on the screen that they were never able to do before. My only fear is that sometimes the special effects take precedence over the story, and you still start with the story.
Okay. Can you tell me about a little bit about your relationship with other partners in crime in the genre? For instance, like William Castle, Brett Gordon, Herschel Gordon-Lewis a little bit later. Did you all know each other? And
I knew Bill Castle very well. I was aware of the pictures he was making, and he was aware of what I was making. He probably was the best known of the director. He and I, at the time, were probably the two best known directors of that type of film in the United States.
Yeah, he was kind of inventive in the tricks sort of
Yes.
and stuff. You didn't believe in any of that?
Yeah, I believed just in the film itself. He believed in the film too, but also he had a lot of advertising gimmicks in the theaters.
Now I interviewed Menachem Golan a couple of years ago, and he told me a funny story from his side, from his point of view about what happened on the what's it called? On the Young Racers, was it?
Yeah, the Young Racers.
With him and Francis Ford Coppola. Can you
Yeah.
tell me the real version of the story? I haven't heard Coppola's version, but only Golan's.
Well, we were finishing up the Young Racers at the Liverpool Grand Prix, the British Formula One race, and I had a little money left over. I had about $30,000, and Menachem came up with a plan to take our equipment, which was all built in a microbus, a Volkswagen microbus, and ship it to Tel Aviv to make a picture. And Francis had an idea of just crossing the Irish Sea to Dublin, from Liverpool to Dublin, and making a low-budget film there. And from my standpoint, I was a little worried about shipping stuff all the way from England to Tel Aviv, where I could ship it, whereas with Francis's plan, I could ship it 30 miles from England to Ireland and shoot easier and shoot in an English-speaking country. So I decided to go with Francis's.
But it is true that before, like, you agreed to do Francis' movie, you did agree to do Menachem's movie, and the way Menachem told it, you heard Coppola's typewriter machines all night long trying to write the Motif 13. And was that like this? Did he give you the script the next morning? And
I didn't have an agreement with Menachem. We had discussed it, and Francis first had a treatment. He didn't write a full script. He wrote about a 10 or 12 page, 15 page treatment that night, and I liked the treatment. I said, okay, we'll make this.
All right. And from all of the people, directors who went to the Roger Corman Film School, which of their film debuts were you most impressed by? Bogdanovich. I remember Target was Peter Bogdanovich's first movie. Golan or Coppola or Monte Hellman for one.
I wouldn't pick one director out. They
No,
all
one
did-
movie, one of all the debut films they made.
No, I
You wouldn't?
No.
Oh, can you tell me about a little bit of a story about the Soviet film Battle Beyond the Sun that you purchased and reshot or something?
Battle Beyond the Stars was a Soviet picture I saw that had wonderful special effects, but it had tremendous anti-American propaganda in it. So I bought the film for the United States, and I told the people in Moscow that I had to cut out the anti-American propaganda, and they understood totally. They laughed, as a matter of fact.
Was it subtle or
No, it was almost silly, or that it was so bad for the Americans, and they knew it had to be cut out to show in the United States.
And it did well?
It did reasonably well. It wasn't a giant hit, but it was a moderate success.
Well, what was your biggest hit considering the budget?
Well, when I was directing, it was probably The Wild Angels, with the first of the Hells Angels motorcycle films, which was the biggest grossing independent film for many years, maybe the biggest grossing independent film of all time, until a couple of years later Easy Rider came out and outgrossed The Wild Angels.
And then Halloween came, I think, and became the most.
Yeah, Halloween, yes.
And what was the movie you had the most fun working on, or you were just like a machine just doing it one week after another?
Probably Little Shop of Horrors. I shot it in 2 days and a night, and it was almost a joke. Everybody was cracking up while we were shooting, and we were just fooling around.
2.5 days, like 2 nights, 2 days and a night?
2 days and a night, right.
All right, amazing. What else? Why did you decide to stop directing? In 1990, I think, was it?
In 1970, I was doing a picture in Ireland called Von Richthofen and Brown, a World War I flying picture. And I was so tired, I could barely get to the set each day. But each day I went to the set and I did the day's work and I finished the picture. And I directed something like 57 or 58 films in 15 years. And I just felt I was burned out. So I didn't plan to stop directing forever. I thought I would take the traditional sabbatical. I would take 1 year off, and I already had a couple of offers for films to do after the year. But I got bored during the year, and I started my production company, New World Pictures, and New World became immediately successful, and I just stayed with that.
By the way, how did the AIP movies, the Poe movies, end up in MGM's hands?
AIP was sold to a company called Orion, which was then sold to a company I think called Filmways, which was then sold to MGM.
All right. You'd be glad to know, no matter what time of day is, we always have a Roger Corman movie running around somewhere and on our channel.
Fine.
People seem to love it. I do. All right.
Just the start. Hi, hello.
All right, let's do the...
Okay.
I'm Mr. Corman. Nice to meet you. Great to be here.
Very good. I'm happy to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome.